Can you imagine a world where the US is not the only country wielding the power of sanctions? For years, this has been the reality, but China is challenging this notion. As the world's production capital, China has an emerging power to impose effective sanctions. The passive receiver has now turned into an active player in the sanctions game. Take, for example, the recent sanctions China imposed on major U.S. aerospace and defense companies, Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. Their crime, involvement in arms sales to Taiwan, a contentious issue in U.S.-China relations. China, insisting on the One China principle, views Taiwan as part of its territory and has warned of forceful retaliation if the U.S. continues military support or arms sales to Taiwan. This dynamic between the U.S. and China, centered around Taiwan, is complex and multifaceted. With potential implications for regional security and global stability at stake, it's clear that the power of sanctions is not to be underestimated. It seems China is no longer playing the role of the passive receiver in the sanctions game. How does a small island like Taiwan end up being a point of contention between the world's two superpowers, you may ask? Well, let's delve into the heart of the matter. China staunchly upholds the One China principle, which views Taiwan not as an independent nation but as an integral part of its own territory. This principle is at the core of China's national identity and foreign policy, and any challenge to it is met with forceful retaliation. Now enter the United States, a country that has historically maintained a close, albeit unofficial, relationship with Taiwan. The U.S. supports Taiwan's democratic governance and economic prosperity, and also provides it with defensive arms to ensure its security. This support, however, irks China, for it directly contradicts the One China principle. In recent years, the U.S. approved a significant arms sale to Taiwan, a move that China interpreted as a blatant disregard for its sovereignty. In response, China flexed its economic muscles and imposed sanctions on major U.S. aerospace and defense companies, namely Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, which were involved in the arms sales. This event underscores the sensitive nature of U.S.-Taiwan relations and its potential to ignite tensions between the world's two superpowers. The U.S.-China dynamic concerning Taiwan is indeed complex and multifaceted, with each move by one side being scrutinized and counteracted by the other. The stakes are high, not just for the U.S. and China, but for Taiwan as well. Taiwan finds itself in a precarious position, caught in a geopolitical tug-of-war between two giants. Yet despite the pressure, the island continues to assert its autonomy and democratic values, further complicating the situation. What we're witnessing here is a geopolitical chess game with Taiwan as the centerpiece. The moves made by the U.S. and China, the reactions, the counteractions, all have significant implications for regional security and global stability. And so, we see that Taiwan is not just an island, it's a geopolitical chess piece that both the U.S. and China are eager to control. Why should the world care about the tensions between the U.S. and China over Taiwan? That's a question often heard when we talk about international politics. But it's far from a simple regional dispute. The ripples of this conflict have the potential to spread far and wide, affecting global stability and security. The U.S.-China dynamic over Taiwan is a complex tapestry woven with threads of historical claims, political ideologies, and economic interests. It's not just about a piece of land, it's about two superpowers with differing visions of the world, each trying to assert their dominance on the global stage. Imagine the world as a web of interconnected economies, a tug here, a pull there, and the whole web starts to vibrate. Now consider the economic might of the U.S. and China. They're not just any players, they're the two biggest economies in the world, so when they start pulling and tugging at each other, the vibrations are felt across the globe. On one hand, we have the U.S., a champion of democracy, standing by Taiwan, a beacon of democracy in East Asia. On the other, we have China, a rising global power, asserting its One China principle and claiming Taiwan as its territory. Caught in the middle are the global community, watching, waiting, and wondering what the fallout will be. The implications are far-reaching. A conflict over Taiwan could disrupt global supply chains, cause fluctuations in the stock markets, and even trigger a global economic slowdown. It could also strain alliances, realign global powers, and reshape the international order. But it's not all doom and gloom. With careful management and measured responses, the U.S. and China could navigate their differences over Taiwan, balancing their national interests with international norms and regional dynamics. It's a delicate dance requiring diplomatic finesse and strategic foresight. So, why should the world care about the tensions between the US and China over Taiwan? Because this isn't just a bilateral issue, it's a global one with potential implications for regional security and global stability. The Taiwan issue is not just a regional concern, it's a global ticking time bomb. How is President Biden's administration viewing the Taiwan issue? A question that's been on everyone's mind as tensions escalate between the United States and China. President Biden's approach to the Taiwan issue is nuanced, to say the least, and appears to be influenced significantly by China's economic predicaments. The Chinese economy, despite its massive scale and influence, is not without its challenges. These economic hurdles could potentially impact China's approach to Taiwan, adding another intriguing layer to the geopolitical calculations in the region. President Biden, ever the seasoned politician, is keenly aware of these challenges that China faces. He understands that these economic issues could serve as a leverage point in negotiations and discussions surrounding Taiwan. This approach could be seen as an extension of the administration's broader strategy to manage relations with China, a strategy that emphasizes competition without veering into unnecessary confrontation. It's clear that Biden's administration is playing a multi-layered game of chess, where economic factors are as crucial as military might. The administration seems to be using China's economic struggles as a tool to mitigate the risks of heightened aggression over Taiwan. But it's not a one-way street. China, too, is aware of the economic challenges it faces and how they might be used by the United States to its advantage. This understanding could potentially influence China's strategy regarding Taiwan, leading to a more cautious approach, or conversely, it might provoke more assertive actions to counter perceived threats. The Biden administration's approach to this issue is a delicate balancing act. On one hand, it needs to uphold the United States' commitments to Taiwan and maintain regional stability. On the other hand, it has to avoid pushing China into a corner which could lead to unpredictable and potentially dangerous outcomes. In conclusion, the Biden administration's approach to the Taiwan issue is not just about military might or diplomatic posturing. It's about understanding the economic realities and leveraging them to navigate this complex geopolitical landscape. Biden's administration is playing a high-stakes game with China, a game where the pieces are continuously shifting and the outcomes hold significant implications for the future of the Asia-Pacific region. What does the future hold for Taiwan and the Asia-Pacific region? This is a question that encapsulates the heart of a complex geopolitical puzzle where the United States and China are key players. The future of the Taiwan Strait is far from certain. It is a complex tapestry woven from strands of political tension, economic power, and regional dynamics. The outcome will largely depend on how the US and China navigate their differences over Taiwan. On one hand, the United States, a long-standing ally of Taiwan, has been consistently supporting the island state's defense capabilities. This is evident in the recent arms sale that sparked the Chinese sanctions on U.S. defense companies. Nevertheless, the U.S. has been careful to balance its support for Taiwan with the need to maintain a constructive and stable relationship with China. On the other hand, China, with its One China principle, views Taiwan as an integral part of its territory. The Chinese government has repeatedly warned of forceful retaliation against any attempts to undermine its sovereignty over Taiwan. Yet, it is also mindful of the potential backlash from the international community. As these two global powers jostle over Taiwan, they must also consider the broader regional dynamics. The Asia-Pacific region is home to several emerging economies and strategic military points. Therefore, any significant shift in the power balance could have far-reaching implications. In addition, international norms and principles such as respect for sovereignty and non-interference in internal affairs play a crucial role. Both the U.S. and China, as major players in the global arena, have a responsibility to uphold these norms. In conclusion, the future of the Taiwan Strait hinges on a delicate balance of power. It demands careful navigation of geopolitical interests, economic considerations, and international norms. As we move forward, it's clear that the actions of the U.S. and China will have a profound impact on the fate of Taiwan and the broader Asia-Pacific region. The future of the Taiwan Strait is like an unwritten book with the US and China holding the pens. So, where does this leave us? We've traversed the gamut of China's sanctioning power, the Taiwan controversy, the global impact, the Biden factor, and the future of the Taiwan Strait. It's clear that the US-China dynamic is complex and multifaceted, with Taiwan at the crux. China's role as the world's production capital empowers it to impose impactful sanctions, challenging the long-held notion that only the US has this power. The recent sanctions on major US aerospace and defense companies underscore this capability and the sensitive nature of US-Taiwan relations. The repercussions of this tension extend beyond the US and China, impacting regional stability and the broader international community. President Biden's comments add another layer of complexity, hinting at how China's economic challenges may influence its approach to Taiwan. As we move forward, the future of the Taiwan Strait and the broader Asia-Pacific region hinges on how these two superpowers navigate their differences regarding Taiwan. In this high-stakes geopolitical game, the world waits with bated breath to see the next move.